In the opening moment of this film, we meet Leo and Remi in the sunshine, running, laughing, and chasing one another through blooming flower fields. It feels effortless. Laughter,
Ah, c'est parfait.
imagination,
Ça avait pas une petite grappe de
companionship
raisin, là?
without boundaries.
Un truc.
They aren't aware of anything outside their friendship. No fear, no second thoughts. Just joy in movement, in racing each other, riding their bikes, playing
Si tu dois
make-believe.
partir, tu veux aller où? Premier pays. Tu peux choisir.
It's a kind of innocence that looks almost timeless. Two boys are playing in a world that hasn't yet judged them, or labeled them, or forced them to define themselves. That freedom, that natural comfort, feels like everything they have. And then school starts, and suddenly, the very way they exist together is seen.
Est-ce que je peux poser une question? Est-ce que vous êtes ensemble? Non.
Not as play, not as friendship, but through the eyes of others, layered with expectation, pressure, and unease. Close, a film by Lukas Dhont. This isn't a story about just two boys. It's a story about what happens when tenderness is misunderstood, and how silence can break something that was never meant to be broken. Intentionally or unintentionally, they're already being judged. You're already wondering, are they together? Are they just best friends? In this review, I'm going to point out hidden messages you might have missed while watching Close. Just a simple question from the classmates introduces something neither of them had named before. And once that question enters the room, it never really leaves. What was once innocent and instinctive becomes something observed, interpreted, judged. From there, the film doesn't just explode, it tightens. Small changes begin to appear in body language, in silence, in who walk beside who. And what makes this story so devastating isn't a single dramatic moment. It's the slow, almost invisible distance that forms between two people who used to move as one. What makes the shift between Leo and Remi so painful is how quiet it is. No argument, no declaration, just awareness. After the question at school,
Est-ce que vous êtes ensemble?
something changes. Not in what they feel, but in what Leo begins to fear. For the first time, their closeness is being interpreted. And once a friendship is viewed through suspicion, it can't return to innocence. You start to see it in Leo's body. He walks slightly ahead now. He laughs a little louder. Around other boys, he pulls his hand away faster than before. Small movements, but deliberate ones. The hockey team becomes important here. Not because he suddenly loves the sport, but because it gives him something else to perform. Speed, impact, physicality. Hockey becomes distance in motion. Meanwhile, Remi doesn't understand the shift. He continues reaching out for the same closeness, sitting near him, waiting beside him, looking for the version of Leo that existed just days before. But Leo is learning something new. He's learning that softness, when watched, can become dangerous. And instead of confronting that fear, he redirects it into silence, into space, into avoidance. What makes this section of the film so devastating is that no one is openly cruel. The pressure isn't explosive. It's ambient. It exists in glances, in locker room laughter, in how boys are supposed to speak, stand, and touch. The more Leo adjusts himself to survive the environment, the more Remi feels the absence. The camera mirrors this perfectly. Early on, they are framed in tight, intimate composition. Now there is air between them, not enough to seem dramatic, just enough to feel wrong. And in that growing space, something fragile begins to fracture. One of the striking things about this film is how differently the two boys move through the world outside of each other. Remi exists in softness. We see when he plays the oboe, careful, precise, emotionally open. Music for him isn't performance, it's expression. Leo, on the other hand, begins to gravitate towards an environment that demands something else. On the hockey rink, emotion is replaced with impact. Speed replaces stillness. Contact replaces conversation. These spaces matter because the film isn't just exploring friendship, it is exploring what kind of masculinity are rewarded. In music class, Remi is still, focused, comfortable in sensitivity. On the rink, Leo is surrounded by noise. bodies colliding, coaches shouting, a clear expectation of how to move, how to react, and how to belong. And slowly, you can see Leo choosing the environment that feels safer. Not emotionally safer, socially safer. Even the flower farm becomes symbolic. Early on, the field seems endless, bright, open. But as tension builds, those same spaces feel isolating. Beauty doesn't protect them. The world outside the field still exists. What close suggests quietly is that intimacy between boys is only comfortable when it looks temporary. Playful, childlike. The moment it lingers, the moment it resembles something deeper, it becomes suspect. And Leo senses the shift before he understands it. Not because anyone directly tells him who he is, but because the environment around him starts narrowing what is acceptable. The film never forces a label onto their bond. Instead, it asks something more unsettling. Why does tenderness feel like something that needs to be defended? In the music presentation, Leo looks at Remi with the same glance he's always had from the very beginning. But this time, he's not in the school environment where judgment hovers in every corner. He's free, and as you can see it in his eyes, care, concern, love, platonic, pure, unspoken, honest. That night, something shifts. The usual sleepover ritual is broken. Leo in the middle of the night leaves the bed. Something he's never done before. And he lies alone on the floor. He's suddenly conscious of everything. Aware of eyes, of perception, of consequences. Remi notices, but doesn't dwell on it. Yet it's hot, subtle, but still there. In the morning, Remi crawls back to sleep beside Leo, hoping to restore the comfort they've always shared. But Leo jokes, telling him to go to his bed.
Tu fais quoi dans le lit là?
What begins as a joke turns sharp, intense, because now Leo is serious. His body, his tone, his hesitation all screams it. The bedroom door locks. His mother's voice carries more fear than irritation.
Je bouge quand tu auras ouvert la porte. Je rentre pas, tu...
That detail matters. It tells us this isn't just about a bad morning. At breakfast, the silence is loud.
C'est quoi? Je vais faire un jus de citron avec de l'eau chaude.
Earlier in the film, the table held laughter, spaghetti between fingers, boiling into each other without hesitation. Now it holds something fragile. Joy in this house was built on two boys being okay. And they're not okay anymore. The ride to school changes rhythm. No racing, no wind in the face laughter, just pedals turning. Remi feels the distance growing and tries awkwardly to reverse it. Leo rides alongside, but not because he understands. Because it's habit. At school, they orbit different spaces. Leo with a set of boys, Remi with a set of boys. And there both of them look up. Both of them check. They're not comfortable apart. They just don't know how to stand together anymore. Hockey practice makes it worse. There's glass between them when they talk. It's not subtle. You feel the barrier. The way word bounce instead of land. Remi asks if Leo loves it. Leo says yes. And you can see Remi trying to adjust himself to fit into that world. Not because he loves hockey, but because he loves Leo. Leo doesn't notice the difference. That's the tragedy. The departure becomes separate. Not announced, not dramatic, just separate. That night, Leo sleeps at home, alone. The room feels heavier than it should. Nothing happens, and yet everything is happening inside him. The next morning, he rides to school alone, until he doesn't. Until the noise of other boys swallow the quiet. He used to race Remi. Now he races them. Remi arrives carrying something sharper. He confronts Leo. Leo lowers his voice, tries to smooth it over. Remi doesn't want something smoothing. He wants acknowledgement. He wants his friend back. He'd rather shout than pretend. Then the truth. Roll call, a name.
Remi? Remi?
Silence. Leo looks up, but not immediately. That hesitation matters. He goes anyway. Laughs, moves, blend. He doesn't know that while he's trying to dissolve into the noise, Remi is making a decision in silence. And when Leo's mother appears after the trip, that's when the air shifts. The film doesn't prepare you. You think accident, or you think it's an injury, or you think this will scare them back together. But Lukas Dhont doesn't offer that comfort. There's no rehearsal of what comes next, just absence, permanent. And in that moment, Leo understands something too late. Distance isn't neutral, sometimes it's fatal. That's the turning point. Not because of what happens, but because of what can never happen again. There is something subtle happening in the color in this film. At the beginning, Leo and Remi exist in green. The flower field, the grass, nature wrapping around them. Green feels untouched, safe. It's a world without judgment. In those fields, they can lie on top of each other, laugh, wrestle, and nothing feels dangerous. The world is wide, open, protective. But then red begins to take over. Remi's bedroom is red. At first, it feels warm, creative, alive. After his death, Leo walks into that same room, and it feels different. The red hasn't changed. The lighting has. What once glowed now feels heavy, muted, suffocating. The room didn't lose its color. Leo lost innocence. Now look at the stage scene. When Leo watches Remi perform, the framing isolates Remi in light. Leo is seated, watching him. There's pride in his eye, softness. The stage glows warm. Remi is alive in sound. Now compare that to the funeral room. Same positioning, Leo watching Remi, but the warmth is gone. The light is flatter, colder, still. Earlier, Leo watching full of life. Now he watches what was left. The framing mirror itself, but the emotion has been drained. The parallel is not accidental. Then there is the broken door. When Leo runs to Remi's house and sees it, it lands quietly but violently. Because earlier, we saw the mother panic when Remi locked himself inside. There was a rule. The door must be slightly open. That wasn't strict parenting. That was fear. The broken door is the fear fulfilled. The boundary first opened too late. And the film never shows up what happened inside. It doesn't need to. Glass appear more than once. At the hockey rink, Leo and Remi talk through a glass barrier. You can see each other, you can hear each other, but you can't reach. Emotion hits the surface and bounces back. Later, inside Remi's house, Leo again separated by glass. Transparent distance. When he looks at the door that was broken. In this film, glass means connection that doesn't land. After Remi's death, the light changes everywhere. Even the outdoor feels colder. Leo's face often sits in shadow. It's physically present. Emotionally, it's somewhere else. Nothing in this film screams symbolism. It whispers. Green was safety. Red became exposure. Glass meant distance. The door meant containment until it didn't. And the most shocking part, the wall still looks the same, but the light isn't. And once the light changes, you can't go back to how it felt in the field. The emotional peak of close doesn't happen at the funeral. It happened afterwards. In the quiet, in the place where Leo can't hide anymore. It begins at the hockey rink, the place he chose, the place he escaped to, the cold air, the noise. And then Remi's mother walked into that space, grief entering performance. She doesn't accuse him. She doesn't demand answers. She asks.
Vous aviez parlé tous les deux?
Softly, and that softness is unbearable because anger will give Leo something to defend against. But gentleness leaves him exposed. When she speaks to him there, in that very place that became the wedge between him and Remi, it feels symbolic. Hockey was distance, hockey was distraction. Now it becomes confrontation, and Leo doesn't know where to look. Then there's the dinner table. Remi's father breaks, not loudly, not tragically. He just cries, and Leo is sitting there watching the damage ripple outward. This isn't about two boys anymore. It's about a family, a chair that'll never be filled again. And suddenly, the distance Leo thought was small feels enormous. Back home, Leo reaches for something familiar. He starts playing with his older brother the way he used to play with Remi. Physical closeness, wrestling, laughter. But it's louder now. With Remi, closeness was quiet, still, breathing in sync. With his brother, it's noise, almost forced. He's trying to recreate a feeling without admitting what he's doing. He sleeps in his brother's room, he lets his brother drive him to school, he stops riding his bike alone. These aren't random choices, they are retreats, regression. He doesn't want to be alone with his thoughts, because alone means remembering. There's a sleepover at another friend's house. It's chaos, games, screens, sound. With Remi, sleepovers were silence and closeness. Now Leo fills the space with noise, chooses distance over stillness, because stillness hurts. And then comes the question.
Yo, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé entre vous?
Remi mother asked him, that's the moment everything tightens. Because there was something, there was distance, there was pulling away. But how do you explain that it wasn't hatred, that it wasn't cruelty? It was fear. Fear of how closeness looked. Fear of what classmates implied. Fear of being seen. He doesn't have the language for that, so he carries it. There's a moment where Leo injures his arm. It's subtle, but it matters. Because physical pain is simpler than emotional pain. Physical pain has edges. It lives in one place. Grief doesn't. Guilt doesn't. They're everywhere at once. So when his body hurts, it almost feels grounding. Something real. Something defined. He's too young to articulate emotional devastation, but his body understands weight. And then finally, the feud. The same feud that once had laughter, it now holds collapse. Leo breaks down there, not beautifully, not in slow motion perfection, just raw, late, uncontrolled. This is the moment you understand. He didn't mean to hurt Remi. He wasn't trying to erase him. He was trying to protect himself. And now there's no way back. That's the cruelty, not intention. Finality. The emotional peak of close is not death. It's comprehension. A step back. It's that small shift. A move to the floor. A change in tone. Can echo louder than we think. And that sometimes you don't realize which moment was the last of one until it's already gone. That's the peak, not spectacle, not blame, but a boy understanding too late what distance can do. The story doesn't end with the funeral. It ends with understanding. There's the car ride, Leo and Remi's mother sitting side by side. No music, no accusation, just headsick with everything unsaid. For a moment, it feels like the film is letting us believe what Leo believes. That maybe it's the reason. That maybe his distance, his hesitation, his silence was the final fracture. And the tension between them holds that possibility. But then something quiet happened. Remi's mother does not punish him. She does not turn her grief into blame. Instead, she sees him, not as the cause, but as a child who is also grieving. And in that subtle shift, the film makes a powerful statement. Grief seeks understanding. Guilt seeks punishment. She chooses understanding.
Leo!
And that choice releases him from carrying something that he was never meant to carry alone. When Leo removes the cast from his arm, it's not just about healing. Earlier, the broken arm gave him something visible, a wound he could explain. Physical pain is easier. It has shape, it has boundaries. Emotional pain does not. Taking off the cast is Leo stepping out from behind something tangible. It's him accepting that there is no external injury to point to anymore. What remains is internal, and he's ready to face it. Not because he hurt less, but because he understands it now. There's a visual echo the film gives us, and it's intentional. Earlier, Leo watches Remi from a distance at school. The framing isolates him. Separation begins there. After the funeral, we see a similar distance. Leo looking towards Remi's mother. The same composition. But this time, distance is no longer social. It's permanent. The film doesn't scream this parallel. It trusts you to notice. And that trust is part of its power. Then there's the house. Remi's house. Empty. No music drifting out. No red walls filled with warmth. Just stillness. That house once displayed creativity, openness, softness. Now it represents absence. And in that emptiness, we understand something larger. This wasn't just a friendship that broke. It was a family that shattered. A mother who lost her son. A father who we barely see, but whose silence carries weight. Loss doesn't isolate itself. It ripples. And then the final image, Leo running alone through the flower fields. At the beginning of the film, those fields held laughter, breathlessness, two bodies inseparable. And there's only one. He runs not in panic, not in escape, but in motion. There's something almost ceremonial in it. A final release, a goodbye that doesn't need words. And for a brief moment, there's a flicker of what used to be, a hint of movement that feels like a dance. Not because he's happy, but because memory still lives in his body. This is where the film truly ends. Not in tragedy, but in awareness. Leo cannot undo what happened. He cannot return to the unconscious closeness of childhood, but he can carry the lesson, and that lesson is quiet. Silence has consequences, and growing up often means realizing things too late. But the film does not condemn him. It doesn't label him cruel. It doesn't define him by his mistakes. Instead, it allows him to remain what he always was, a boy learning too fast about how the world sees him. And in that final run, we don't see the guilt anymore. We see someone who understands loss, who understands fear, who understands that love, even when unnamed, mattered. And maybe that's the real closure. Not forgiveness, not forgetting, but recognition. Recognition that something beautiful existed, that it is changed, that it cannot return. The field is still there. The world keeps moving. But Leo will never run through it the same way again. And neither will we.